before fall, and Fred and Shelley and Caleb are on the road. They're out in Texas visiting with Brianna, so I'm glad they got to get away for a little bit. And then pray for my mother, if you will. She's recovering from um, her heart catheterization on Wednesday. She got 2 stents, and so I'm hoping that'll make her feel better as she recovers. Then pray for Hoppy Sturgill. Brother Hoppy called me this morning. He's not doing very well himself, and then his wife Lois is going through a tough time. So pray for them if you would. And then Cody is down in Louisiana working on the storm damage for the power company, helping out down there. So pray for his safe return and safety while he works. And I saw on some news thing something where they had just put up some power line, and a truck drove right through it and pulled everything down, and so it's just dangerous work down there. So any requests on this side? Remember Jim and Jeanette, they're not well today. Anybody over here? Okay, David. Sarah, okay. All right. Anyone else? How about on this side? Any requests? Okay, Norma? Okay. Okay, brother. Okay. 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 All right. Someone else? Okay, Miss Carol. She's recovering. She's got a couple. No, she's at home and under Tommy care. Yeah, she's had those stents, and so she's getting better. I believe, and she's on. She's take a little while to get her strength back. Okay. Any other requests? Okay, Dave. Okay. 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 All right. Someone else? All right. We'll go to the Lord in a time of prayer. It's always a blessing to pray. We're gonna have Brother David teach Sunday school today, and Dave Richmond, would you pray, please?
Amen. You can turn to John chapter 21, Gospel of John. I teach Sunday school every other Sunday, normally downstairs to the teenagers, and me and David, we alternate. And Fred, he talked to me and the preacher about doing this, and I like to take every opportunity I can to get before the people. It's an honor. But, like I say, your text will be in John chapter 21. If anybody ever watched Tony Hudson preach, see, I got 15 minutes of preach right there. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever. That's a small bottle. He makes a joke. He gets a bigger bottle if he's going to be 30 minutes or an hour. And I've seen people throw water at him from the service, like give him some more gas in his tank or whatever. But Labor Day, that's kind of a funny thing. You know, we celebrate labor by not working. That's kind of an oxymoron. That's kind of like celebrating your successful diet by going out and eating, you know. But anyway, I'm glad I'm off. I rarely get a day off of work. Thank God I got a good job working in the mining industry, and that's up and down all the time. But I want to be talking to you this morning about Peter. And you know, for the last 17, 18, 19 months with this COVID mess going on, you know, the title of my message is I Go A-Fishing, which you'll know where it's at here when you read the text. It says, chapter 21, verse 2, there were together Simon Peter and Thomas, called Didymus, and Nathanael of Canaan and Galilee, and sons of Zebedee, and two other of his disciples. Simon Peter saith unto them, I go a fishing. There's the title. That's where I get it. It says, they say unto him, we also go with thee. They went forth and entered into a ship immediately, and that night they caught nothing. You know, most of the time, I've heard a lot of people preach on this. You know, a lot, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's a different way of preaching it. You know, a lot of times people talk about, you know, they emphasize on the toiling and the laboring, and, you know, not catching any fish, and he's a professional fisherman and all that. And that's not where I'm going today. You know, basically it's about, I think that was pretty much implying he was quitting the ministry is pretty much what I believe. And I think Jesus kind of was looking at that too, because if you read towards the end, you'll see where that went. But anyway, back to the message. You know, for the last several months, you know, that's been the motto of everybody is I go a fishing. You know, and I mean, Brother Bill could testify. He took them boys and they went a fishing during all that COVID stuff. Man, they was going all over the place. I talked to him. It was almost like an adventure talking to him because we went to here, we went to there, we went to this. But you know what I noticed? As a working man, which I was one of the essentials, you know, we didn't get off. We wasn't like a school teacher or whatever. We were there. We were just locked down. But I'm working just like nothing happened. But whenever the weekend would come, we get like a few hours off or a Saturday off or something. You couldn't find a hole to get to the water. There's people everywhere, and it's still like that. And it went that way with, you know, hunting also. There's just more people out in the woods. I went to Cranberry Glades one time, like this was like towards the fall of last year, and I counted 117 vehicles from the gate to the end of the campsite. So that's, if anybody's ever been there, that's ridiculous. I mean, it was. I took pictures of it, showed the guys at work. I never seen anything like it. I didn't fish that day. I just went up there. I went in 4.5 miles to try to get away from people. I couldn't get away from people. They were all the way in there. And you know, this message isn't about fishing. This message is about just getting out. You know, people have just gotten out and gotten away from God. You know, I've even got friends and family members that they went a fishing, and just like Peter, they ain't come back. You know, we've talked, me and my wife trying to encourage somebody we know that teaches Sunday school class. Their church is not back in gear yet. They're doing the COVID whatever, you know, and they've just, she was a Sunday school teacher, and she's not even going to church. You know, it's just sad. I mean, I understand. I mean, you know, the fears people have, I'm not diminishing that, but you know, you just about have to just do things differently. You got to figure out how to live and still keep going. And the Lord, he talked to Peter about the same thing here. You know, and honestly, I've been there. You know, you get sometimes, and I think Peter, what happened here, if you know the whole backside of the story, the Lord was just, you know, put on the cross, and everything changed in the disciples' mind. It didn't turn out the way they thought it was. They thought he was going to set up a kingdom, and, you know, they was, you know, getting ready for some big event, basically. Well, the big event happened, but it wasn't exactly how they believed. And then, you know, God, Jesus, I mean, he actually just worked with them and explained to them how, you know, he must needs do this. You know, everything was for a reason. And each one of them he pretty much went to, like Thomas, he doubted. You know, all these different things. He was trying to reassure each one of them. But Peter, here's what's sad. Peter took off, and, you know, he took 7 people with him, you know. And the sad part is, you know, if you're out of church, just like that person we're working with, they're out of church, which, I mean, they could still go to church, but they're not teaching Sunday school. The church has it set up that way right now. But, you know, they had 4 other people they were taking to church. So that's 5 people out of church because of one. I mean, and that happens even in our church. You know, I mean, there's people here that hasn't come back since the COVID. I heard preachers in it a couple of weeks ago. And that's sad. You know, I like to see them. But, you know, like I said, though, I've been there. I've been sick of something, need a break. That's one thing. You get aggravated on a job or aggravated with something family. Something don't go the way you think it should. But I believe he was just basically saying right here, he was quitting the ministry. I believe it's really what was on Peter's mind. Because he went back to what he was doing before. You know, that's what a lot of us do. We'll go get saved, and then we'll, you know, get on fire for God. You call them popcorn Christians or shooting stars or whatever. And they get all excited about the things of God, and then like the red gets licked off of it, and then the work starts, and then they quit, and then you can't. Then the FBI can't find them. They don't come to church. They don't put no importance on it. And and they what they'll do is eventually they'll go back to the things they were doing before, and it's just like nothing ever happened. But something did happen. They got saved. Now they've got a different task. It's just like Peter. He wasn't tasked to be a fisherman. He wasn't. The Lord had different plans for him. He had plans for him to be, to basically project his church further along. Win people to God and set up churches everywhere. And he wasn't doing it. He was lollygagging, fishing, and went back to what he was doing before. But like I said, he took 7 people with him. A lot of times I was going to bring a towel up here this morning, but I didn't do it. And I know Preacher Pittman, I got saved under him. He loved boxing. He said, somebody told him one time it ought to be against the law for a preacher to watch boxing. He said, well, I'm going to watch it until they make it illegal. But anyway, have you ever heard of the phrase throwing in the towel? That was the terminology that people used at boxing realm. And basically what that means is like the coach would hold on to the towel, and whenever like their fighter was getting beat up or whatever, they could throw that towel in there and it would stop the fight. So they wouldn't obviously get hurt any worse, but it would also forfeit the fight. I was going to put a towel and say, that's how a lot of Christians walk around. They got their little quitting towel right here on their neck. And just at the least little bit of a thing, they're ready to throw in the towel. They're ready to give up on what God's sent them to do. They're wanting to, if they don't get that job, or if they don't get that new car, or if they don't get that position, or whatever it is, you fill in the blank, And now they've even got it divided over other things, like if they make me wear this mask, or if they make me take this shot, or if they don't make me wear this mask, or if they don't take the shots, everybody's wanting to throw in the towel and all this stuff. It's a big controversy, and it shouldn't be. God never said being a Christian was going to be easy. He never did. But he did say that he would never leave us nor forsake us. He did say that. You don't just quit doing what God wants you to do. And, it's tough. Like I said, sometimes you shouldn't forsake the Lord either. When I joined the Army, I was in the Army for, 9 years, but or basically 10 if you count the whole enlistment. But when I first signed up, the first enlistment was an 8-year enlistment. The way they do it, it's like 4 active, 4 inactive, but they still consider that an 8-year term. And you can enlist more during that time frame. That's what I did. It kind of like changed the years around. But because I went from an inactive to an active, or a reserve rather, and then when I went to North Carolina. But anyway, the Lord's Army is a little bit different. When I was in Army, when I first signed up, they give me orders. Give me a piece of paper and told me, I swore to do this, do that, whatever. And it told me on there my ETS date, which ETS, the military term, is in term of service. That's when you're done. That's when you get out. You're out of the Army. And you can change that by like re-enlisting. You can re-enlist. That's kind of like coming to the altar again and getting everything rededicated. That's almost the same thing. But you're not out of the Army if you're in God's Army. You're still there. You just sign up for another bonus is what you're doing. But anyway, I had an end term of service. I knew I was going to be in for 8 years, 4 years active, 4 years inactive. But as a soldier of the Army of God, you don't have that. When you get saved and you turn your life over to the Lord, that's forever. That's just you may do a lot of different jobs. You may be a Sunday school teacher, you may be a bus worker, you may be a lot of different things. You may be a preacher, you may be a missionary, you may be whatever God's got you doing, prison worker, whatever it is, but you're always going forward. You're always doing something for the Lord. And he'll move you around, he'll do things with you. The Army does that. Like whenever I got my first orders, I had 3 different sets of orders, and they had me going to different bases. Like I went to Fort Jackson for my basic training. It's where they give me all the basic skills to be what I needed to be a soldier. All right, and then I went from Fort Jackson kind of Fort Benning, Georgia. Okay, I went down there to do airborne school, to be an airborne ranger. All right, and then I left from there, and I went to, I had my AIT at Fort Jackson also, which is like a college for military. I'd done that. Then I went to California, out in the desert. People think, when you say I went to California, Bill can attest to this, California's a big state. And it wasn't like it was now, thank God, then. But still don't think it was a very good state. But nonetheless, I wasn't going to no beaches out there. I was in the Mojave Desert. That's where David was born. It was nothing but sand, dirt, rock. It was a rough area, really. It was 120 miles from Death Valley. Preacher talks about West Virginia being an air-conditioned state. It really is. If you go there, I've seen it 130 degrees there before in the daytime. And what's crazy is you have a 60-degree temperature swing every day, just about. You like get up in the morning, it's 65 or 70, and then by the afternoon it's 120. That's pretty tough. How do you dress for that? But anyway, in the military, you dress what they want you to wear. But all that to be said, the military is different than God's army, because God's army, you don't get out. You graduate or you rapture, which I think, guys, that's getting ready to happen. I think it's real close. I think we're right at the door. And then, but God has you on a station, and that's what you get in your orders of where you're stationed, right? Lighthouse Baptist is our station right now. This is where we're stationed, And sometimes when I was in the military, you could put in for a request for change of station. You could do that. There's some channels to go through, and get moved. That's one way you can go somewhere else, go see something else, or re-enlist to go somewhere. That's what a lot of people did. They signed up for longer terms to get away from places, and then you get a change of station. That's what they call it. Well, right now God's got you on this station. Lighthouse is your station. You don't leave this until He promotes you, or you graduate to heaven, which we know what that means. You die, or or else the doctrine changes. And I would say then is when you should leave. If it ever changed here, which we got good doctrine here. But those are the three criteria to leave your station. You shouldn't quit. That's one of your general orders, is to don't ever quit your post until you're properly relieved. That's one of the general orders as a soldier. And really, I think that would be a good one for God's people. Until you're just like preacher, he's told back whenever we used to have Sunday school class, he didn't know that he was even saying it really, but he said, in my mind, I heard him from the podium talk about to us when we had in those Sunday school meetings, just don't let the kids loose. You stay there till an adult relieves you. That's almost the word for word what the general orders is for soldiers. Until you're properly relieved of your duty, you stand put. You don't move. That's your responsibility. If it's 11 o'clock, you stay there until the service lets out. You stay there. And that's how God is. He's got us on a station. That's what we need to do. We need to stay on our station. A lot of times people, things that can mess you up too is success. I heard a preacher talk about it, and a lot of other preachers talk about it. When you have a success in your life, or you get to where you feel like you don't need God. He made a statement about like we'd went in some housing lately, soul winning, and we've got better received now than what we did before. And I remember when we went before, when Fred first came here, we went to that area, and we wasn't received very well. And I know exactly what he's talking about. And I think what it is people were successful, financially in that area. But I heard a preacher one time say that when the church was in debt, people had a mind to work, and as soon as it was paid off, people started to drift. People started to just have a haphazard attitude about the church. I'm not talking about this church. This was in another church. And then he said that, people felt like that they weren't needed because, like, they weren't under the burden of, like, every week this $1,000 note payment or something. And people felt needed because of their tithe and this and that. And then once they had this burning ceremony of the mortgage, they burned the mortgage. It seemed like people quit tithing. It was weird. And the guy was talking to me about it. And then, but anyway, you know what? You are needed. Every one of you is needed. We don't owe a mortgage on this church. That don't make it. There's no difference there. There's work to be done here, God's work. And then, sometimes people quit because of not success, but they quit because of an overlook. They got overlooked. They got their feelings hurt. They felt like, well, I should have been the one that sung that song. I should have been the one that done this or done that or whatever. And that happens. It's really hard. I hate to be a pastor in that aspect, because how do you please everybody? You can't. It's just like a parent. You can't please every kid. You're going to do something. You get one thing, you're going to have to get the other. And the other. It's just how it is. And just basically all you can say is just pray for preacher in that aspect. But not only that, it's a dirty look. Instead of an overlook, it might have got a dirty look. That's back to people again. You're worrying about what people think. Who cares what people think? It don't matter. You ain't got one person to please. That's the Lord. That's it. If your Christian walk, as long as God's happy with you, you'll be all right. People will. It's nothing's ever changed with people. Like I say, you can't satisfy everybody. Somebody's going to either criticize what you do. It's just like critiquing somebody's preaching. Until you get behind the pulpit and you do it, it's easy to armchair quarterback somebody until you do it. And come on, get up here. That's the way I look at it. Then we'll critique you. You shouldn't critique preaching. That's nothing. You should basically pray for somebody because they're trying to do what the Lord's got them doing, rather than critique somebody. But and you shouldn't do that anyway. But not only that, idle time. This COVID is dangerous. You know what? You got a lot of people's off work. Well, or they're on some kind of a paid thing, but they're off. The kids ain't in school. They're out of school now, I think. But things has changed in our day-to-day lives so much. Now, even I got 2 adult kids, and things have changed in their life as far as like my oldest son. He's got school kids, and they missed more school last year than they went. I'm sure it's true in some of you guys' life or some of your kids' life. But they got more idle time. That's just like I said with all these people going to fishing. Somebody had some idle time because I sure couldn't fish anywhere this past year. I didn't even bother with it. Almost couldn't hunt, but because of the people. But you know what? Idle time. That's there's a saying. I don't think it's a biblical saying, but it says it's the devil's workshop. Idle time, and it'll mess you up. People's, on the computers more, on the phones, and this, and then here's another thing. They're not even at church. There was a whole year we almost didn't have church. So what's that do? Somebody's sitting at the house when they should be in the house of God, and nobody's policing them. We don't know if somebody's tuning in really. You could turn it on and walk away from it for that matter. But what I'm saying is, you're not where you're supposed to be. Everything's out of place. And another thing, that's a dangerous position. That's very dangerous. It is the devil's workshop. And then we also things that get people out of churches or get them to quit is life changes. Something happens. You get a job in a different town, or or your job ends or something. Just different things can happen there and can cause a lot of problems. Or something may happen in your family. Somebody might die, or you might have to take on care of a loved one. You might have somebody. We had that happen for a couple years with us. Her mom got real ill, and then her brother got real ill. So we was missing a lot of church, but we didn't. It wasn't by choice. We wasn't giving up on God. We just had a different plan at the time, and we're back in here. But another thing is kids grow up. The most foolish thing I think a person can have with adult kids is like, once my kids are raised, I'm done. That's totally wrong. That's so wrong. Especially now that I've got adult kids, and I see is, they need an anchor more than they've ever, because things is going to go on in the teenage, just like these 2 right here. You know what helps them? Mom and dad right there in church. That's what helps them. Because get this, I know where Tommy's at right now. He's taking care of his mom, which that's good. That's fine. That's what I just talked about in the first point before that. But you know what? A young couple, they're blown around everywhere. Their jobs are changing. Everything's changing. Their houses, when people get married, young people, all of that stuff. What really helps them is to see mom and dad anchored in church. Nothing changed. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, revival nights. Every time a door swings, guess what? They're in church. Where's mom and dad? Well, it's Sunday night. They're in church. Man, I should be there. That's what'll get them. When they're sitting there thinking, I remember when I was in church every week like this. What it'll do is God will eat their lunch. That's what'll happen, and that's what you want. What you do is you call and encourage them. Tell them, hey, man, we had revival this week. We got Jeff Fugate here. Hey, you won't believe how good this was. And then start telling them about the message stuff. That's what we did with that Sunday school teacher we're working with. She's got, like I said, 5 people out of church because she's not teaching Sunday school. But you know what we say? Hey, man, you won't believe how good the service was. Tell a little bit about it. Whet their appetite again about the things of God. And then they're, before the conversation's over, they're saying, man, I need to get back in there. I need Man, I wish our church. And then I said, well, come to ours. We're having church, and then we're having a regular service. We have just like normal. We take precautions. We do things where we don't necessarily shake hands if you don't want to. I mean, preacher does it, but he's never twisted my arm to make me shake his hand. If you don't feel comfortable, just go out the door. I don't think he's gonna think. As long as you're here, I don't think he cares. But just do things differently. Sit in a corner, sit in the back, sit downstairs, whatever. You sit in the parking lot. Whatever it takes to make you feel comfortable. Because hey, you know what? With this COVID stuff, it's going to be different. Everything's different now. Everything. But just don't give up on church, and don't have inconsistencies. Some of this stuff, like I said, is understandable. Like your age gets to you at a point. At some point, things start breaking down on you. I figured that out the older I've got. You can't do what you once could do, even though you want to. You got the mind to do it. You just don't have the abilities. But you just got to do it differently. About like this COVID stuff, you just got to go at it different. You might have to go a little bit slower, but you can still get the job done. But your health can do things too. That kind of goes hand in hand with age. Is that? But it makes it harder sometimes. To serve like you could. But that's why it's important why you do have the health to serve as much as you can. Because, you have this thought process as a young person. Well, man, when I retire, when I do this, I'm going to do this for God. I'm going to start a big bus route. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When you get there, it's a different set of rules apply then. You can't do what you could then. So really, your better bet is to just do it while you're young, fight as hard as you can then, and then kind of like coast to the end. Then is what you do. That's how you do it. You don't just live on your accolades from the past, but yet learn how to work. Like guys at my work, this is a perfect example. I'll just pop this in my mind. Things at my work. I'm kind of a leader in my section, and I'll do things. They all call me Dad at work. It's weird. He can tell you that too. My boy don't like it. He gets aggravated because that is my son. But they all call me Dad. Even guys that's about my age will call me Dad. That's kind of weird. But what it is, I've been there for almost 20 years, and I've learned how to do things a little bit different than these guys do. They're beating their head in trying to get something done. I'll say, oh, well, wait a minute here. There's a whole lot better way of doing this. That's how, as a Christian, you can learn how to work smarter instead of harder as a Christian. And you can do things, and God will bless it just the same as He will as you out here working your brow sweat down. Just it works that way. But this country, as it pretty much goes right off the tracks, which it has. I mean, it's totally derailed from the top to the bottom. I mean, I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. It's crazy. But, the world needs something that it can look at that hasn't changed. That's why I think it's really cool that the church is back in order and working like every week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. I hope we are able to stay that way. Because you know what? The world can look at the church and say, something? That's the one thing that hasn't changed. They still love God. I'm talking about God's people. I'm talking about they still love God. They still love others. They haven't went off the deep end with all this wokeism, craziness that we see on TV. And, they still love church. They still go to church. Nothing's changed. They still depend on God. My motto is, quitters never win, and winners never quit. That's a great motto to have right there. I heard it said one time that a character of a man is judged by what it takes to stop him. That's a weighty statement right there. I don't write a whole lot of stuff in my Bible, or I don't get a whole lot of people to sign. I mean, I write in the text as far as I go. But I'm talking about like in the preface of my Bible, like on these white pages actually. Like I had Jeff Fugate on my Bible. I think that guy's a man of God. I really do. There's not many people, like I said, that sign the front of my Bible. But and then I'll write little verses down there, little things like that. And that's one of the things I had wrote down there is about that character. But it's what it takes to stop him. And if you think about what that says there, that's very important. What's it take to stop you? What's it take to stop you? What would cause you to quit church? Sometimes it wouldn't take much. It might take some of that stuff I talked about, like an overlook, a dirty look, whatever, any of that stuff. That can make you quit church. That's petty. That's petty if it does. God's much bigger than that. It is. And if somebody else is the reason you're coming to church, I think you need to get saved, because I don't think you got what I got. Because I'm thankful for what God's gave me, And I don't mean monetarily or physically. I'm talking about like salvation, a peace of mind that when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. That's what I'm thankful for. And, if you're thankful for that, I use an illustration a lot of times, when I'm downstairs teaching the young people, because, sometimes you got to gauge things a little bit different for younger people. But you know what? I talk about people, it didn't cost us anything. Salvation didn't, but it sure did cost Jesus a lot. It cost him his life. But you know what? I always say that, it's a gift. Somebody give you. But you know what I always use this illustration downstairs, I'll say, if somebody was to come and pay my mortgage off, which thank God I owe less now than I have ever. What I'm saying is, if they would come and pay my, just say, hey, Dave, I want to take care of your mortgage. I would be, and I say, well, why? So I just want to do it as a gift. And they write me a check and pay my mortgage off. You know what? If they did, said for sure, I don't want nothing for it. I don't ever want to see you out there mowing my yard. I don't want you to work on my car. I don't want you to do anything. I'm just doing it because God told me to do it. That would be an awesome gift. But here's the thing: even if they told me that, I would feel the debt of gratitude to them for doing that. That in my mind, if anything they ever wanted anything in my life, I would try to be there for them. God's done way more than that for us. Way more. I'm not paying a mortgage off I'm talking about. He's paid a debt that we couldn't never pay. That's a sin debt. It's gone. That's just the slate swiped clean if you accepted him as your Savior. So I feel an indebtedness. I don't know nothing. I'm definitely clear on my doctrine on that. I'm not working my way to heaven. But what I'm saying is, I like that verse. He says, "You're His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works." That means He saved you to work, not by your works. That's what that verse means. And we use that. I use that verse a lot of times on the soul winning about He saved you to work, and that's what I'm talking about here. Not quitting on God, and because we got a job to do. And you know what? People have took this COVID thing and used it as a crutch and an excuse, I guess you could say is a better word, to neglect church or neglect the things of God. It's just like this person me and my wife's working with. But and other people, guys I talked to at church, there was a guy, or at work, there was a guy I talked to who said he hadn't been to church in 2 years. Well, COVID ain't been going on for 2 years. Like, what's the deal, man? And I kind of made him feel guilty about not going there because I was telling him some blessings we were having here. But you know what? Brother Fugate said that, like, I love his Monday night message. It's talking about benefits, like things you receive, being a conduit for the Lord. He was talking about the Dead Sea. It takes in all this stuff, but it don't put nothing out. And, church is a benefit to us, And you say, well, how's that? Well, here's the thing. It gives you an opportunity to give back something. I'm not talking about necessarily your tithe. I'm talking about of yourself, to give, whether it's a compliment to somebody or whether it's your tithe or whether it's whatever it is, or your service to the Lord, just like I was talking about. Your indebtedness to God. Basically just something to give back to God. It's an avenue for service is what I'm saying. And not only that, God gives you a blessing, then you can pass it along to somebody else, to pass the blessing along to the next person. Guess why? So you can, if you fill a cup up so full, it can only be so full till you have to pour some of it out to get some more in, right? That's how it works. It's giving and receiving. If you never give nothing out to nobody, why are you still, you're not going to receive anything. You're probably, your blessings are pretty much done. That's pretty much what he was preaching. And that really helped me. But, a lot of this quitter's attitude stuff could be avoided by a couple of little simple things. The news media is tough. I'm telling you, I've heard Preacher mention a little bit about this. But, just turn it off. I heard that guy that I said I was talking to at work, he told me he was on he was getting ready to go to the beach. Actually, he went to vacation just this last hoorah before his kid went back to school. He had been waiting to go to the beach. He went a full week, but he said, we've took a break. He said, we're fasting from the news. They're like, what are you talking about? He said, we're taking a 2-week break. He said, we're not going to watch any news. He said, before we go down there, we don't want nothing. He said, I don't even want to think about it. He said, I don't want to worry about nothing down there. I don't want to worry about nothing back here. That's a good idea. I thought to myself, because it can depress you. Man, it can wear you down. You know, all you hear is just doom and gloom and doom and gloom and doom and gloom. You know, it's not God's way. It's not. You know, if this is all we have, yeah, then we're probably men most miserable. But this isn't it. You know, the Bible says we're pilgrims passing through. Hey, this place is just, this is temporary, buddy. Some people's got their roots dug too deep. What the problem is. That's all it is. We're not, hey, do a checkup from the neck up. You ain't staying here. You're going out. You know, everybody's days are numbered. You know, and I think, hey, I'm listening. That guy blowing that trumpet, I'm like the preacher on that. You know, I was like, wow, hey, wait a minute, that's a good sound to start listening for, because you know what? I think that could be any moment. I think we're at the finish line, guys. I think it's going to happen in our lifetime. That's what's amazing to me. You know, you hear about all these guys in the Bible that thought it was going to be their lifetime. I really believe it's going to be in ours. I mean, I don't see nothing else needs fulfilled. I think this is it. And all this craziness going on, that just even makes it that much more real to me, really. The fact that, hey, this is about to wrap up, and I'm going to be here when it does. That's awesome. But you know, God gives us some examples though about, and I probably can't name them all by but He says, think on everything that are pure, lovely, just, honest, a good report, all that stuff. That's what He tells you to think on. There are like 7 things He tells you to you know, keep your mind on those things. And you know, if you turn on any news, even if it's Fox News or Newsmax or whatever it is, say you're a Trump supporter, which I am, you know, but like he said, I vote for a place. But you know, even if you do that, you're going to get depressed watching that stuff, because you know all they do is holler about all this stuff that's going wrong. Guess what? Nobody's doing nothing. You know, nobody's going up there and taking charge of nothing. That's what needs to happen. So we can't fix it. We can't. Watching it ain't going to do nothing but make you mad or depress you, one or the other, maybe both. But you know, look on the things that are of a good report. That's not a good report. I've not heard them say anything was good news. You know, nothing. And they don't have any good news. You know, most of those people are like vultures. They feed on trash and garbage. That's all they do. They're like these big turkey vultures you see on the side of the road that's eating out of a dead carcass. That's what the news media is to me. That's what they're doing. They're feeding on that, and I don't want no part of it. You know, because any minute that thing's getting ready to bust that they're eating on. But you know what? If we do that, it'll keep us going for God. It's by not focusing on that stuff. Not looking at that. You know, focus on the good things. Focus on, hey, we had revival this week. You know, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. Hey, the church is doing great. You know, we're back in full service again. Hey, look on the good things. Look on the positive side of things. There's always something. Get in the Bible. You know, find something positive. But look right here in verse, back in my text here, 21. Let's look at verse 15. Look right there. It says, so when they had dined, Jesus said unto them, Simon Peter, we're in St. John chapter 21, verse 15. So when they had dined, Jesus said unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He asked him a question. He talked about fish. He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. And he saith unto him, Feed my lambs. He said unto him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He's asked him a question. Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. She said unto him, Feed my sheep. You know something? What he was doing there, he was telling him, Peter, I didn't call you to be a fisherman. He said, I called you to do something else. He said, I want you to be a fisher of men. I want you to do something else. I got you doing in the ministry. He says, get back to doing what I want you to do. You know what? And it grieved Peter, and I think that's what it took. You know, that's why the Lord had me preach this message, because you know what? He's got a job for some of us in here to do. And you know what he says? Get to doing what I ask you to do. Come on back. And the ones out there on the Facebook and the YouTube, come on back. That's God's call. Come on back. That's what he wants. He wants you back in his house serving him, doing what's right. Don't get sidetracked by the world. Hey, you know what? We win this thing. You know, we are on the winning side. We sing a song about that. You know, we're on the winning side. Hey, you know, that's a good thing you can do right there. Sing you a song. You know, the Bible talks about when you're down, you can sing songs of praise and make a melody in your heart that helps you. You know, get something, a good song stuck in your head, And then, and you know, it's funny. There's a guy I work with, and he'll tell you that he whistles, but he'll get sidetracked a little bit. He's not 100% straight. But what he does is one minute he'll be whistling Amazing Grace or singing Amazing Grace, and then he'll get off on something else. But occasionally he'll get something going. And he's real good at whistling, and he'll be singing a good song or something. And I'll actually get it back in my head, and I'll be like, man, that's a good song. But that's the thing. That's the message that the Lord's had me to bring today is just, hey, get on back. Get on back to what God's got you doing. He's got a plan for your life, and he ain't done with you. He ain't done with none of us. Because, hey, if he was done with us, guess what? You'd have got saved, and he'd have took you out here right then. The only reason you're still breathing God's air is because he's got something for you to do. That's it. What your job is to figure out what it is that God's got you to do and get busy doing it. I mean, not everybody can be a preacher. That's a fact. Not everybody can be but you can find something. You know, you could witness on the job. You know, some people watch you a lot more than what you think they do. You know, when you're still going to church and everything, and they're not, and they can hear you talking this stuff, you're being a witness to them. You're being a thorn in their side in a way sometimes, but that's good. You know, you're the salt. You're not supposed to be just buttery smooth on everything. You know, the Bible talks about us being a salt. You know, if you ever get salt in a wound, what does it do? It stings. It burns. You know what? If we bring the gospel or bring God's word into people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'm talking about God's people that have drifted and turned back and went, I go fishing, you know, then guess what you're doing? You're working for the Lord right there doing that. You're doing his work. You know what you're doing? You're trying to build back the kingdom of God. That's what all of our jobs are. Every one of us. That's what I got. Now, Bill, how about you close in prayer?